Greetings. This is Brother Zygos for my second video. It's been, I think, like over a year and a half, or about a year and a half, since I did my other video, based on some information I learned in my healing process from suffering from symptoms of Morgellons, Lyme, and all the other stuff that comes along with it. I just wanted to do a video based on some of the things. I'm in a little bit more in a different headspace than I think I was back then, and maybe I could just do an addendum to that, but make it a little bit more on a philosophical level, and also just basically thoughts that I've had, my internal monologue about what needs to be done to heal our bodies, heal this world, and overcome this grand deception that is going on with the construct that we have currently controlling our civilization, so to speak, and in effect our lives, our perception of reality, and our belief systems. And I wanted to go into the topic of corruption, and kind of my thoughts on how it is unavoidable in the physical world. It's always occurring, it is always weaving in and being pushed out, because the idea of corruption is not just talking about politics, it's not just talking about governments, it's talking about your own body and all of nature, and life and death, and how it's an unavoidable concept of the physical world, because without corruption you do not learn, because basically any corruption is something that's trying to feed off of you and use you in order to sustain its own life, just as we do that upon the earth, and we become corruption upon the earth, a virus, parasite, perhaps, when it is allowed to flourish and not put in check through reason and logic and love. But in the end, it's all learning, because through all this trial and tribulation, this negative energy, if we step up to the plate, we can actually overcome these obstacles, and we can overcome this game, at least to get to the next level, and so my thought on that is, everything, we're built out of, basically a bunch of different organisms. We're not just a person. The outside world is constantly coming into our body and creating this body that we're in, so that's like this idea of duality. Everyone is like, everything's dualistic, which is true, because it all works on that concept. And one of the biggest dualities, as far as I'm concerned, is the self versus the other, which is everything else, including your family, your job, your the idea of nature, but even though you are nature, but the idea of the just animals and trees and rivers, and even though that's all inside of us, so it's not really, even though it appears to be dualistic, it is actually, we are nature. We have all the elements of nature inside of us, and we are nature. And technology is nature. It's all of cars and planes and trains and automobiles, if you will. That's kind of redundant, but all parts of nature. And it came to this level from learning and overcoming things, trying to figure out how to exploit, manipulate nature to a higher level, and through that we've created a big mess, because we want to keep getting, we want to or not we, but I think certain beings anyways, certain entities within our world want to skip a bunch of the steps and become gods without really doing all the work, so to speak. But humans, we are gods on a certain level. We can conceive higher levels of reality if we actually put the work in, or we can be just beasts, and live more without thinking about anything, and just let our bodies deteriorate, never looking at how we are not treating them and learning from the corruptions within our own bodies and changing it accordingly. That's the big flaw right now, I think, in society, is everyone is all right with the corruption being it is. Everyone just figures, oh, it's unchangeable, nothing I can do about it, the world is just fucked up, so I'm going to be fucked up, and I'm just going to assimilate to whatever it tells me to believe, because that's easier than going against that belief, which is, in my idea, really stupid, because then you just you're not being true to yourself, or moving forward in any way, except maybe within this hierarchical ladder system that we have, in which you buy into the lie, you buy into the corruption, only to be a bigger part of the corrupting influence rather than the transformative influence. So yeah, we're constantly taking in the outside world, whatever we eat, whether that's plants or animals or dog doo-doo, I don't know, basically what a lot of people are eating within this current system. You will take on that energy, and it'll become part of your body, and you will, and it'll influence your behavior in a way that resonates. So yes, we are constantly taking in our environment. We're constantly a vessel for this world, for nature, and for all the things that it throws at us. And we have to, it is our job as beings, as all animals, all insects, everything, to overcome those and learn and evolve and elevate our the way we thrive on this world, and hopefully get to another level. And I think humans are on the verge of actually spiritually getting to that level if we'll just take that step. But unfortunately, it seems to me a lot of people just want to buy into the status quo, buy into to the dualistic realm of thought and not a holistic realm of thought, which is like left versus right, which is really just the left brain and the right brain. In the political world, that's all it really symbolizes in my mind. It's a false equivalency of the left and the right brain. It doesn't really represent those, just maybe certain traits of that, and that's what brings people to be left wing or right wing, or liberal or conservative. They're just ideas that polarize. I think people that have one propensity towards one side or the other, it just pushes that to the edge based on media, propaganda, and all that kind of stuff. So if we decide to actually transcend this system and not be satisfied with what it's giving us, which is just death and destruction, then we can actually change it and move towards a place that is better and more aware of our surroundings. We can overcome these entities that are trying to use humanity for food, basically, for fuel, by basically using fear and tearing down our bodies and our minds, so that we don't really so because of fear we don't look at the truth, because the truth is too scary, because we've been told it's one way for so long. So if we overcome that fear and realize that we're being played by the system, which is just nature, right? Throwing stuff in our path, because one element of nature wants our energy. You could, on one level, that's the elites. On another level, it's I'm sure it's another being that may not exactly live in this dimension. Tying that into disease, Morgellons, Lyme, cancer, whatever, that corrupting influence that is coming into our bodies and making us less who we were, who we are, and constantly trying to take over, suck our energy, and basically steal our life force. And so that's just what everything in this world does to another in some way or another. And through that process of finding out this and that and how this is doing that and that, reach some level of balance in which, or equilibrium, if you will, in which they can live symbiotically and not constantly trying to destroy each other, and instead live side by side and exchanging energy in a way that is not is not pathological or corruptive to a level that will end in annihilation or loss of freedom, because that's basically what's at stake right now. I feel like is freedom to choose what, at least for now, everything will transition through, but I would rather make it a smooth transition out of this slavery that we're in and into a thing where everyone can do what they want based on truth and the constraints that this body puts upon us, based on morality and all that, because if you're not acting in a moral way in this world, then sooner or later you will have to answer for your transgressions. It's just basically the way it works. If you work hard and work on learning and honing the body and honing the mind, then you will get somewhere. But if you just give up and say, no, I'm just gonna do what I want, that is may not be the best for my mind or body or for society, then you're gonna go downwards rather than upwards. And I think the idea is going upwards. I mean, they would say that's the right-hand path, and in more esoteric terms, where going downwards the left-hand path, and that's not basically listening to your higher self. It's listening to the lower mind, or the lower realms, and not using reason. So what to do about this problem that humanity is facing, in which, from my research and from my experience and everything that I've gone through, we are purposely being corrupted, and having stuff thrown at us like crazy. A lot of it's coming from the sky, obviously. We can't really do much about that, except maybe use orgone energy, look into it. And a lot of it is coming from the food supply, and we can do a lot of control over that. A lot of it's coming from sedentary lifestyle. We can obviously do something about that. So if this corrupting influence is coming to us, and we were born into a corruption, basically a society that hadn't learned yet what was being thrown at it. It was just like, oh, this is convenient, oh, this is like this new technology, and this convenience is so great, and this is just how people live now, and without really like having time to process this quick change in our world, and just think, oh, I'm just gonna take advantage of this comfort, and not really realizing that, oh yeah, well, by doing that you're just giving up your sense of reason and logic, and just buying into the corruption and just basically the status quo, which wants you to be a slave. It wants you to be livestock. It just wants your energy, and if it can like make you agree to being a slave, then it will do that. And that's basically what we have as a world, through the language and through the media and through our governments, that has allowed us to agree to be slaves because of the way the world is when we were born into it, this brand new world. But if we take a look back and look at what's going on with the health of the world, and we look at what's going on in like the healthcare industry, which has nothing to do with healthcare. It has to do with medicating people who want to continue to abuse their bodies in some way or another, and so they don't have to think about the pain that they're having, when the pain's really just there trying to tell you need to change. So what do? You change, or you transform. Let's say, I like the word transform better, because I think change has this idea of chains, it's like we'll break the chains, stop, just have some self-control. We have to take responsibility for this vessel we're born into and make it work better. And if Morgellons teaches us anything, it's like we haven't been treating it very good, and that means you need to change something. And anytime you have the willpower to heal, it will happen. It just will not happen overnight. It takes years. I mean, I know, because I've been suffering from some of these symptoms, I think, for longer than 5-6 years since I first started encountering these symptoms, but at least became aware of them. I think I was suffering from them since long ago, probably since before I was even 10 years old. But you're just not aware of it, because it just seems like it's just the way your body is. But when you look back and you see, oh yeah, this is just with the vaccines we were all injected with at birth, with the food that our parents fed us without really thinking about it. This has been going on for a long time, and so we have to realize, oh, okay, this is a product of that lifestyle of convenience. This is a product of like just being handed something that might bring some joy to the senses and make you feel comforted for a time, but in the long run it will start being corrosive, corruptive, and destructive. So what do we do? What needs to be changed? What needs to be transformed, rather? That's the way you look at the world, and not just accepting what is handed to you from this civilization. Not just accepting all the sugary foods with that contain, high fructose corn syrup, which contains mercury, and genetically modified crops full of pesticides. Not eating the tainted meat that comes from animals that live in horrible conditions and are full of parasites, heavy metal, vaccines, antibiotics, and just horrible, probably fungal infections, everything you could imagine, and live horrible lives and then die horrible deaths just so we can have that convenience. Maybe we should cut that out. Maybe that isn't so great for our bodies and minds. Maybe this cheese that everyone's eating, this milk that everyone thinks is so great for the body, maybe we should look at where that comes from. Those same animals that have going through all that genetic modification and abuse just so we can have a handy block of cheese to like clogs up our arteries, our bodies, and our digestive systems. Maybe we should look at that and see, oh, that's like mother's milk. That's that's mother's milk that's made for baby cows to grow big and strong, and maybe not humans, because our bodies aren't meant to process it when we get to be older, because we're only meant to drink mother's milk up to a certain age. But I think what's happening is, because of living in this very cold, deceptive world, and especially with our parents not really transitioning into this this new industrialized reality very well, they maybe didn't give us the best parenting. They maybe didn't breastfeed us, and maybe we didn't get that mother's milk that we needed, that nurturing, that comfort. And so we're continually self-medicating with dairy products in order to feel that comfort. I mean, they call it comfort food for a reason. Yeah, it makes you feel comfortable for a moment, but over time it's an addiction, and it's just because we have issues we don't want to deal with, or we're not able to deal with, and so it just kind of keeps us sedated and not really dealing with those issues. So maybe if we think about these things and realize that, oh yeah, do we want to be part of the corruption? Do we want to be eating these animals that are basically eating genetically modified corn for the most part, and that's tearing down rainforests and to grow it, that, and that's all that energy that's putting into that crop to just feed the animals to then feed us could be used so much better, but instead it's destroying the ecosystem of the world. It's destroying the lungs of the planet. Yeah, so if we don't want to be a corrupting force on this planet, we don't want our body to be corrupted, then we have to just take the reins ourselves, or else something else, that corrupting influence, is going to take the reins for us. Do we want to be in control of our destiny, or do we want someone else to be? When we have control of our body, we take control of our own impulses, take control of the desires that we have that may not be the best for us, and understanding those are natural desires that we should listen to, and not just live a boring life that doesn't really take into account the needs of the physical realm, but instead enjoy the world, enjoy it as it is, but learn from it and change things accordingly in order to flourish within it and not be a parasite, virus, or pathogen on it. Instead, live in equilibrium and symbiosis with the environment. And really, if you think about it on an astrological level, which is something I'm into, esoteric thought, that duality of the corruptor, the negative energy, and and freedom, the positive energy, the unbound movement of energy. We basically have the energy of light and darkness. Darkness is the constrictive. It holds back. It puts you into chains, and the light gives you freedom, movement, positivity, and we are beings of light. We're children of the sun. We live off the sun. We need the sun. We're not children of the dark. Maybe some people are. I don't know. When you think about what the archetype for darkness is in astrology, it's Saturn, and Saturn is Satan. It's a cold, dark planet that wants to control everything. It's the teacher. It's teaching you constantly. It's constantly putting up obstacles. It's putting walls up. it rules the physical world. You know, it rules. It's the one that wants you to learn by causing you pain, negativity, and tribulation. It's a malefic. That's the dark side, you know, and that's basically what Star Wars is talking about, and everything is the dark side. It's Saturn. And then what do we have is the positive energy. It's the sun, the Christ, and through the light we can actually, and if we are exuding light and we're looking to that energy of freedom and illumination, if you will, then that's obviously the path we should take. But the thing is, we do need both of them to learn, because we can't have freedom of movement, because then there would be nothing going on. If everything was just light and everything was moving all the time, we wouldn't have any bodies. We wouldn't have the earth. We wouldn't have anything to learn from. We need the obstacles. We need the corruptions. We need the barriers, because if not, then there's nothing solid. We don't have a solid world to learn and enjoy and experience. It's just nothing but unbound everything, I guess. Maybe that's the positive, I don't know. And the negative is bound everything, or bound nothing, rather. So, you know, really, we need that negative energy. Otherwise, we don't have a world. You know, we need to learn. We need to grow. We need to figure out how we can become one with everything. And in order to do that, just got to keep learning. You got to keep overcoming those obstacles, or else you're going to be drawn backwards. And let's go upwards towards the sun. Let's go upwards towards the light. In order to do that, we just have to take control of our bodies, listen to them and listen to what's good for them, and realize that Saturn, Satan, controls this world, and it's and basically the people who run it are basically just carrying out his agenda to enslave humanity. But I don't think he necessarily wants everything to be enslaved, because then what fun is that? You know, I think the problem is that people don't want to grow up. People don't want to learn. People don't want to take the reins. They're tired. They're fearful, and so they want to be taken care of by mommy and daddy. And you know, they call him Father Time for a reason. You know, that's what Saturn is, the Grim Reaper, Kronos. That's Saturn, Satan, all the same thing. And if we don't grow up and decide that we want to be vibrate at a higher level and have more of what this dimension or other dimensions can offer, we have to overcome this fear mechanism and this propensity just to accept things as they are and just follow the leader. You know, we got to lead ourselves based on the rules of this world and think about them logically, you know, and think about, okay, what can we do to actually stop a world in which we feel anger and resentment and jealousy and hatred. We have to stop embodying them. We have to stop embodying these traits, and we have to realize that we are all here trying to learn, but there is and as long as you don't take control of yourself, then someone else is going to do it for you, unfortunately. That media narrative I was talking about earlier, this governmental narrative, it will keep working. We'll keep going to war. We'll keep using all our energy towards these wars, towards our own enslavement, as long as we believe in this system, which this dualistic two-party system, this system that wants us to be just a cog in the wheel. If we want to overcome that, we have to just stop believing in it. We have to stop believing in the religions that it presents us. We have to stop believing in the governments that it presents us with, and we have to start believing in ourselves. Not to say that religion is all bad. There's a lot to be learned from it, and a lot about spirituality. A lot of esoteric teachings are encoded in all religions, especially Christianity. But we have to be our own Christ. We have to be our own Savior and not leave it to someone else to do, like the government, because they're only going to take us the other way. They're not going to save us. They're just going to enslave us. So, and I've been seeing a lot of this lately, people putting all their energy into their partisan politics, their slogans, their and just basically getting on board with this these media mantras and propagandized realms of thought, which I actually think it's part of the programming, it's part of the nanotechnology, it's part of the system of this corruption, rewiring the brain to just be an automaton, be a robot, and just accept your programming. And I don't accept it. I don't accept it at all. And I hope you don't accept it either, because I don't accept the world as it is. I'm not alright with the world the way it is. I'm not alright with my energy being used for ill. I'm not alright with people being hateful and hurtful to other people and exploiting their energy. Because when you really look at the bigger system of our capitalist government, everything's about business, everything's about war, everything's about hierarchical, dog eat dog, getting the best of by exploiting the weaknesses, the vulnerabilities. You become the virus, you become the vampire, you become the parasite. I don't want to be that. I want to help other people. I want to be the cure, you know. The way the system working the only reason it works is because we're not stepping up to the plate and doing what's right. And if we all start doing what's right, starting with our own bodies and listening to our bodies and not being okay with eating the pain and suffering of other beings, not be okay with exploiting other people for their energy just when it serves us, then we can live in a paradise, and we can live in a world where everyone is able to express their truth and who they are freely and not be judged for it, because we're all going to be basically in a state of love, acceptance, and caring of everyone, expressing that on a higher vibration. So that's my my little rant for the day. I hope I'll probably need some editing in there, sort things out a little bit, but I hope it made some sense. I've been thinking about it. I didn't take any notes. I just decided to do this on a whim, but I've been thinking about it for a while, and I want to do more like thoughts maybe that are shorter. Finally got a new cell phone that has more energy, so I'm actually just able to do it with my cell phone, hopefully, and throw these up on the internet for you guys, and I hope it's helping somebody, because otherwise I wouldn't be doing it, because I want to help people, and I want this world to transform into something where we all help each other and care for each other in a way that actually serves a higher purpose. Anyways, until next time, peace and love, and adios.